All right, so my last video, I was really discussing about just the cost of sending your kids to college now and is it worth it? And I got some great feedback about just college being worth it. And I think it's just different for everybody, right? I can't lean on it one way or the other. I think every family needs to really rule and direct your family the way you think is best, right? But I just think about it like even for my kids, I would love to push them towards the entrepreneurial route. I personally hope that I just don't have entrepreneurial dreams and tendencies, but I truly think that I can be an entrepreneur. I can be successful going down that direction. So, and I think that they can too. They actually already started a business. I named it, and then for some reason they got together and their cousins and they renamed it. And I was like, all right, that's fine. But I think those type of plans and ideas will shape them for many years to come. They're gonna remember, listen, I started something years ago, and I can kind of do that on my own now. So I think that's interesting. But the second thing that I think about is the fact that we initially said that college was just so much, right? And the fact that college is being so much is like, all right, it's not that I want them to be able to really have that opportunity where they're like, listen, if I wanted to pay for college, I could, right? If I wanted to start this entrepreneur and go down that route, I can do that as well. And I think that's what's important to me is that once they just decide that they're going to go down that route, they're going to have choices. And I think that's what's going to be important. I want them to have choices that they can make it, that they're going to be able to have choices. They're not forced into one direction, right? So one thing when I said, hey, I want them to, hey, $320,000 is what the price of college is, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm not gonna pay that, right? So they're gonna sit there and be like, oh wow, I really want to go to this college that costs $320,000. Well, that means you got to pay for it, right? And how are you going to pay for it? You're going to pay for it based on the decisions that you made, based on businesses that you started, and I really think that my children, if with me kind of guiding them, they can really do whatever they choose, whatever they want. Those opportunities are going to be available for them. And you can see the sun is in my eye today. I'm like right in front of the window. I wish you guys can see this view. I have a view of the London Eye, and I just happened to be in London for this week. And I just thought, it's first time in London, I just thought it was super exciting to really shoot from London. And and I know that my kids are gonna go so much more places than I'll ever be able to travel, and I'm waiting for that. I'm in anticipation of that. So I'm gonna be able to tell them all the places that I've traveled, and I know that they're gonna be able to double those places and even go even further. So I think that's really something that's to a challenge I'm going to put out there for them, right? And it reminds me of a story that I say time and time again. I remember going up to my dad, and it's not his fault or anything like that, but I remember going up to my dad when I was like 16. And I was like, Dad, I want to start something, and I'm telling people that I'm asking people, what should I start? And most people were like, hey, Dad, hey, you need to get into real estate. Real estate is what's going to change your life. And this is something I told my dad when I was like 20 plus years ago. I was like, Dad, we need to buy a property. We need to flip a property. We need to do something like that because, every so often since the age of 16, I get the bug and I Google and I'm like, listen, how do I become a millionaire? I usually Google that every few years. And most recently I'm just like, maybe I was shooting too low. I wonder, how do I become a billionaire, But it's really not about being a millionaire. It's not about money at all. It's really about independence, right? Independently being able to make a decision without like, hey, I want to take a month off and go off with my family, and unfortunately you can't make that type of decision because you're restrained either by a work schedule or finances. Everything comes across to stop you from being able to do that. But once you have a bit of freedom financially, you have freedom in your schedule, those type of things right there are going to create opportunity for you to be able to say, I want to pick up today and be able to take my family, right? I want to pick up and and have my children go study in London, right, for a year. I want to pick up and I want to go live with my family in Africa. I don't care. But you can't do that. You can't make those type of decisions when you're kind of held down by financial, right? You're held down by a job, and granted, listen, I know we all have to work. We all have to kind of make money, but could you create something that works for you, right? And I have a couple of ideas. I'm like, I wonder if I could start something that could work for me, if that makes any sense, right? So I'm excited about what that looks like and what that could be. The other thing is, and in the direction of technology, the one thing I heard recently is that the future of technology is that kind of like the idea, the concept of a job is going to go away, right? And we saw that during the pandemic, right? We saw that what the future looks like is that, and I think the pandemic gave us a taste of what the future could be, right? When people are kind of left to make their own decisions, we saw that. We saw like the Great Resignation. We saw people were like, "Hey, listen, I'm here. We have this major incident, major epidemic or pandemic," and then I'm like, people are like, "Listen, I'm leaving my job. I don't want to work here anymore." People were just like, they weren't constricted. There was a bit of freedom, I would say, right? The pandemic brought a little bit of that. People were had guts. It came to a point where the people were like, "Listen, I don't want to work anymore. I'm taking a year off," or I want to be a consultant. Like we saw that with our nursing, right? All the nurses were like, I'm gonna go and move to, I don't know, Idaho for a year, or I'm gonna move to Missouri for a year. And we saw that, and people had freedom in their schedules, and they had confidence to say, I'm gonna go off and work at this place. And they were controlling their own money. People were making their own money. I mean, what did I see? I saw like a YouTube video that nurses were making some crazy amount of money per week, right? I don't even want to make it up, but some crazy amount of money nurses were making. And I was sitting here like, wow, look at that opportunity that was created, right? When people decided that they were going to take control of their schedule and take control of their finances, people had freedom. And I was just like, wow, this is an opportunity here to have freedom, and being able to start your own is going to create that opportunity. And starting your own doesn't mean that you're not like utilizing your degree, right? So many of the nurses that traveled, they used their degree. They were licensed nurses, RNs, but they said, listen, I'm not going to work for one hospital. I'm valuable to many. I'm valuable in this particular way. So I'm going to go out and show my value. I'm going to go out and kind of put my value to the test a little bit, right? And go out to a hospital and say, listen, hey, do you guys need an emergency room nurse or a doctor that, and the hospital will say, yeah, we don't want to, for one reason or the other, we don't want to hire somebody full time, but we'll take you on. Now, this person, this nurse, this doctor was able to take control of their schedule and their finances. So that kind of shows you, it kind of gave you like a little bit of an idea of like, look what we can do. Look what we can do. Look, we're more valuable than we think we actually are. So I think that's pretty cool. I think the pandemic gave us a taste of entrepreneurship, right? And I don't want us to take away entrepreneurship and say, oh, it's not, that doesn't mean that you're like not using your skill set. No, you're using your skill, but then you're contracting it out. That was the word I was looking for. You're contracting out your skill, right? You're not dedicating, you're not taking your skill and saying, all right, here, you pay me this for a transfer of my time. No, you say, I'm going to give you 3 to 4 hours, and you utilize me the best that you can, and I'm going to tell you what my price is for those 3 to 4 hours. And I'm like, man, so I was able to, those people were able to just kind of give their price. And I just think that's awesome in itself, man. So the one thing that they said that the future looks like, what does the future look like? And I forgot what platform I saw this on, but they were saying the future looks like, hold on, the sun. Hold on, let me take a look at this thing. The sun here. Okay. Hey, there we go. That's better. That's better. So the future looks like where they said people are gonna really be able to. It's gonna be a marketplace, right? So a marketplace of skills, like we see today, right? So today, if you go to Thumbtack, if you go to certain websites, you say, "Hey, I need a plumber." You can find a plumber. You can find a wedding photographer. You can find anything on Thumbtack, right? And that's like that instant, that instant, and that's pretty much what people are saying that's going to happen for everything. That's the prediction. The prediction is, hey, I need a doctor, and instead of paying a year's worth of medical insurance and dental insurance, no, I'm gonna put it out there in the marketplace. I need a dentist, right? I'm gonna put it out in the marketplace. I need a tooth pulled right now. Who can pull a tooth? And then you have these dentists that are going to bid and a dentist is gonna be like, listen, I'm licensed and I'm available, right? I'm not doing anything. It happens to be 3 a.m. You don't have to wait till 6 a.m. for a dentist, right? You have to wait till 8 a.m. You have to drive some far distance. Listen, I just pulled up on my app. I have a toothache. I need a dentist right now. And by the time by the time you hit the button, somebody's responded and said, hey, I'm willing to pull your tooth for X number of dollars. That's going to be power a little bit, right? I think that's going to be very powerful if we can get to that direction. And I made that example up myself. I'm predicting that dentists and we will no longer need dental insurance, medical insurance. And obviously when you have something like that, it's going to revolutionize, how we do things today, right? You're going to have an app for all things, not just what we see today. Like, oh, it's starting to get there a little bit, right? Like I need a mechanic to come and fix my car right now in my driveway. You're starting to see a little bit of that. Mobile mechanics, you're starting to see that a little bit. So imagine what that's going to look like in about 10 years. Imagine what it's going to look like in about 5 years, where there's going to be a marketplace of skills, right? All skills from one end to the other. Hey, I need somebody to be available right now to help me with this podcast, help me with my video. It's going to be at the tip of our fingertips. Right now, there's a bit of friction. It's not as easy there is not like the platform, right? It's not as easy as Facebook. It's not as easy as Instagram. But I think it's going to get there. I think it's going to get to a point where it's going to be a click of a button and you're going to say, I need a task completed within the next half hour, and people are going to be able to bid on it. And that's going to be able to reduce the price because you're going to have many people trying to bid, right? Where now it's like, oh, the insurance company tells you which dentist you can go to, what's covered. You see where we're going with this? I'm telling you, that's the way of the future. Are you guys ready for the future? I think there's a lot of innovation coming, so I'm excited about what the future lies. All right, I'm leaving you for now. Just had to quick rant.